Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be with you today on the Ask Sharon segment. Back in my office, I've been on the road for about 10 days, so always happy to get home. And Mike came home from moving our cows, and so he's back home too. So it's nice to be back in our nest, but excited to be doing Ask Sharon today because I've had a lot when we came up with this topic. It's actually made me think a whole lot about proactive versus reactive because off the cuff, and certainly when people talk, I say, are you proactively driving your life or are you reactively? And it's kind of an easy thing for me to say because I have to admit it, I'm a control freak. So, how many other control freaks are there out there? Be curious to see how many of you would admit to it in the comments section. Because when you're a control freak, you pretty much tend to be more proactive than reactive. And it's always been kind of my mantra that that's how I want to lead my life. But as I was thinking about that, preparing for today's show, I have some fantastic questions. I actually was thinking about it because my husband and I used to get always frustrated with him because I wanted to make sure I take the action I need to today to prevent a problem happening. And my husband was always more, you know, just wait and see if we have to deal with it. If it happens, we'll deal with it. And it would just drive me nuts. So we're very, from that perspective, very different. They say opposites attract, but being in control or being proactive means that you are in the driver's seat. You're taking control and you are being like, for instance, a problem solver. If you're a problem solver, you're out there, you see something that needs to be solved and you become proactive and you do it. So on the cuff of it, I still take the position that I want all of us. You need to be proactive about your life as opposed to reactive, particularly when it comes to money. I often say, and you've heard me say it, you're either a master of your money or a slave. Well, when you're a master of your money, you're proactive. When you are a slave to your money, you're reactive. And so ask yourself, well, hi, Myrta, Nora, Karen, Mary, wonderful to have all of you here. And it's something that I want all of you to think about in your own life, where you can quickly identify where you're being proactive, because there's some things to identify it. Obviously, it's when you are the one that's in charge. It's coming from here. What should I do? What action should I cause? You've heard the phrase, every action creates an equal reaction. Well, that's usually true, but you can determine whether you duck or react, because I often say you can't change someone else. You can just change how you react to them. So if they take an action, you can say, is this worth me responding to, or do I want to ignore it? And so that's something that I think we should also think about, because I used to have people get me really upset, and then I go, wait a minute, they're over it. I'm still stewing in my upset. That's me. I'm doing that. And so again, being solution focused, problem solvers, fixers, typically we are the ones that are being more proactive and really being accountable. When you're accountable for what you're doing, you tend to be more action oriented. Now, in the personal success equation, we talk about passion plus talent times association times action. So taking action means proactive, right? And plus faith. And so ask yourself. But as I was really preparing for today, I actually caught myself, and I drew a big distinction as it relates to living your life and raising your children. Because I think some of us, and I'm busted, I have to admit, many times, I'll never forget, my son was he wasn't driving, he was at a minor fender bender with a friend. And they had it handled. So I asked him, I said, well, what would you do if the same thing happened to you? He said, I call you. I thought, oh my goodness, that's not a good thing. So as parents, we almost need to take that control freak out of us sometimes and let our children learn how to be proactive. Because if we're proactive, we don't allow them the space to be proactive. And so it was really kind of hit me as I was preparing actually this morning about the difference. as a parent, you want to sit back and be, yes, we tend to have to be reactive, but allow your children to be proactive so that they understand the power that they have within themselves to make choices in their life. And our game, Thrive Time for Teens, is all about young people realizing that every choice they make either drives them to success or not. And so that's part of that proaction and action, active. And that's the whole topic for today. And so I really am looking forward to seeing all of your comments. And again, for those of you that are joining us late, I am delighted to have you join us today, because I think this is really, you know, I kind of, when I talked to Angela about it, I thought, oh, okay, that's an easy one, because I talk to people all the time of about being proactive, not being reactive. It's kind of a mantra. You need to be proactive. And I really stopped myself and said, wait a minute, that's easy for me to say because I'm such a control freak. And I'm having to step back and say that's not probably the best thing in all cases. But when it comes to your money, it absolutely is. And it's absolutely being in control and becoming a master of your money. And that's something that we're going to get into some of these questions, because that's exactly what some of them address to. Hello, Nathaniel Scott and Angela and Myrta. So happy to see all of you with us today. We've got people online from all over the world, and that just makes me so excited. So I talked about you being focused on what you want out of life, being solution focused, problem solver, being accountable, and using SMART goals. We've talked about that in many of our programs. When you have SMART goals, then you know how to be proactive. You know what actions you need to take to achieve those goals. And when you do that, when you're proactive, you're making your own luck. When you're proactive, you're more open to see possibilities that come by you. And part of that is also consistency. I would imagine most people who know me would say that I'm pretty proactive. Now, in the last few years, I was a whole lot less proactive. As I've shared with you, I've been kind of in autopilot. Sometimes you say, well, what's next? What's next in my life? And losing my son was something that just kind of put me into neutral. And that's something that I really look back now and say, okay, I kept busy. From other people didn't see me cut back. They thought I was busy as ever, but I wasn't really driving my future the way that I had always in my entire life. And that's this whole commitment to this show and to the new podcast and to the book and to the new course we're going to come out with, the Play Big movement, because I want to challenge each of you to really be the number one in your field, live your legacy, and create maximum impact, because people need to hear from you. And part of that is by being proactive. But also when you have customer service, you want to be reactive. So you want to make sure that you are providing as much as you can. So for instance, when we're looking at a customer service thing, you might have Q&As so that somebody needing help might just go there and find the help they need. That's being proactive. But then you also want to have that ability for customers to reach out to you so that you can listen to their concerns, listen to their questions, and react appropriately. So I want you to write some comments in here for me so that I know what you're thinking about the reactive side. Where is reaction good? I talked about it in raising our kids. When is being reactive a positive move? Because until I started preparing for this show, I was kind of not of the mind of even thinking about that. But then the whole thought of parenting came to mind. So I want to jump in here and get into these questions, see where I can find them. I just printed them off, so I haven't read them yet. Hi, Sharon. This is Trent from Twin Falls, but it's a little chilly. I work full time, and my wife and I have a 2-year-old daughter. Oh, wonderful. Congratulations. I am just wondering in general what you mean by being proactive. I handle my responsibilities every day to be a good provider and member of my community, but I'm definitely looking for something to move me forward in life. Well, I think maybe, Trent, what I say is you look like the definition of being proactive. You're proactively taking care of your family, and now you're looking for something else to move you forward. That's being in control. you are the definition of proactive. And I want to congratulate you, because that's exactly what we're talking about here, is recognizing a need and solving it, recognizing something that you can do and being aware that you can improve your life, and not waiting for someone else to do it for you. So as a parent, when we're proactively controlling what happens to our kids, we prevent them from having the opportunity to be proactive. We may, not always, but it's something that we can be proactive in creating an environment where they can become proactive. That, double entendre. So next question. Thank you, Trent, by the way. I bet quite a few people out there have that same issue, like, how do you define proactive? My name is Maggie, and I'm originally from San Antonio, but I'm currently living in New Zealand. Oh, we had someone from New Zealand last week. I've been catching your lives on replay. Sometimes in life, things happen and you have to react to. You can't just ignore. That is very true. What preparations do you feel people need to make to be most empowered in their reaction? I moved to New Zealand after suffering a pretty major loss in my life. I'm so sorry to hear that, because I wanted a fresh start. Running away may not have been the best reaction, but I am happy to be here. I just don't want to get caught off guard again by something happening that I don't expect. Well, thank you for that question, Maggie. There's a lot of questions within that one question. Now, life does happen. And so when things happen to us, we are in a position of reacting. But do we react with positive response, or do we react by allowing that to cripple us? And so I'm sorry about your loss. You made a decision that seems to have worked out well for you, going to New Zealand. But sometimes we need to take a step back and say, am I making this decision in high emotion? Remember, I've talked to you about high emotion, low intelligence, right? High emotion, low intelligence. And that's what happens when we are reactive. So when we're proactive, we actually think about something, we have our goals, we plan it. And so we're planning out an action that is consistent with what we want. When we react, that reaction can often be something that is detrimental to us, because we call the knee-jerk reaction. We're reacting from a position of emotion. And so challenge yourself to think about that. And you say you want to make sure you prepare yourself so that nothing else happens to you that you don't expect. How many of you feel that way? Certainly me. I would love to know that nothing's going to be a surprise to me. But life happens. And so you will have surprises. The issue is, are you going to be more in control of what's happening to you, or less in control? And so how are you going to look at that? Are you going to take a step back and say, okay, this happened, analyze the emotion, and then say, what are my alternatives? How can I react in a way that is going to help me move forward in a positive way? And that's actually turning your reaction into proactive action, if that makes any sense. So, all right, so Victor here, writing from Albany, New York. I like the concept of being proactive and in control of life, but wonder when it feels like all you do is react because life keeps throwing stuff at you. How do you find something to be proactive about? Violet from Albany. Wow, that's a difficult question, because sometimes that's how it feels. I know there was for a couple of years for me, I just felt like, everything was happening to me. I wasn't in control. And that's really a lot of times where our emotions are driving us, and we're giving up our own ability to stand in our own power. And so being proactive is standing in your own power and deciding what you want out of life. And a lot of times things cut us down. And I think there's a book called Bad Things Happen to Good People. And so it's really not how many times you get knocked down, as long as you get back up one more time. And you may have heard that phrase, but it really is true. And we want to learn from our mistakes. We want to learn from those things and then move forward and become more proactive in what we want. And sometimes it's hard. one of the things we're creating in our new program is how, how to get from financially broken to break even. That's a journey just by itself. And then we're going to talk about how you get from playing big, from break even to financially free, because it's a different mindset. It's a different thing you need to focus on. More different proactive steps are needed depending on where you are on that scale. And so when things keep happening to you, take a step back, Violet, and ask yourself, what do I need to change? My environment, is it my environment that I'm doing this? Or am I setting myself up? Am I hanging out with the wrong people? Those are all things that are important to determine, because that's one of the other steps of being proactive, is making sure you're hanging out with the right people, making sure people are there to support you. So we have Trent, who is being proactive with his family and looking what else he can take. We have Maggie, who doesn't want to get caught off guard. And part of that is just being aware and understanding that life does happen. But then we have Violet, who seems, you seem like a lot of things are happening at once. And so I want to tell you that you're not alone. You're not alone. A lot of us have been there. And I think you are taking the first step by recognizing it and reaching out. So congratulations. And for each of you, I thank you for these questions, because they're heartfelt. And I think we have the opportunity to create our future by how we react, and then turning that reaction into proactive forward mobility. And Karen Tooley just said, read Outwitting the Devil. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that plug. It is really how you deal with fear. Outwitting the Devil is an incredible book, and it can certainly help all of you in doing that. And it's really, hello, Buffy, Myrta. I'm so happy to have all of you joining us. So I have quite a few questions, so I don't want to skip anybody. Hi, Sharon. My name is Rob, and I'm a small business owner in Mesa. Oh, not too far away. My business is growing, which is great. It is. But I am at capacity with what I can handle on my own with just a couple of small crews. As I go about finding people to bring in to help me handle the additional business, I have a landscape business. Okay, what do you suggest I look for in order to find people who will be proactive in my business? I am thinking I need someone to help me manage clients, as well as at least one other crew member to provide services. This is $1 million question. Every employer out there has this question. And I have the mantra, hire slow, fire fast. One of the ways that I interview people is talk to them about situations to see how they would react, or what course of action they would take given a certain situation. And certainly when you talk about customer relations, I always tell people, reach out and have a customer appreciation week. Don't wait for a customer to call you. You call them, see how things are going. Tell them you appreciate their business. And in addition, a maintenance person, you want somebody, the situation is, we're there to cut the grass, but if you see the liner on the sidewalk is out of whack, you should probably do something about it. And all of those things are issues that you want to address up front with the people that you hire. Tell them what your expectations are. Expectations are very important, because many times we have expectations in our life, and when life doesn't fulfill those expectations, we get very disappointed. But expectations when it comes to your employees are very important. If they don't know what you expect, how can they perform at the level you want them to? And so as you're interviewing people, you talk to them about your philosophy, how you feel. Now, in my company, my team knows that if their child is performing in school, I get mad if they don't attend and be there, because that's very important to me. So that's a philosophy that I have, and that's an expectation that I have, that they will participate in their children's activities. And I have every confidence that they will make up the time, or they will make up through energy on other projects that we do. And so again, being clear about your expectations with your employees. And that was Rob. Thank you, Rob. And good morning, Sharon. This is Violet again. All right, another, wow, that's where. And I currently work in a call center while in college. I'm blessed to be able to live at home, and my parents have provided me the opportunity to go to college without having to worry about the financial burden. how fortunate, and sounds like you're very grateful. So that's wonderful. You know, so many kids today are being buried in school loan debt. As a student, I have to be proactive about managing my academic responsibilities, but in the call center, we basically are reacting to people's issues. Although it feels great to complete an assignment, I actually feel more empowered by helping people solve problems, which seems like it falls into the reactive category. I'm wondering how someone like me, who tends to be a fixer, can think of things differently so I can get the same amount of joy out of being proactive. Well, this Violet, I think we talked about this a little earlier in the program about understanding that by being a fixer or problem solver, you're actually being proactive. And as people call into customer service into your call center, I bet your employer wants you to proactively support them in finding a solution. And so, yes, it's a reactive system. All right, it's a system in your company, but they probably have something where you have the ability to solve the problem for them, and they give you the parameters and the expectations for you to proactively solve that problem. If you weren't being proactively solving their problem, then you would be being reactive, just listening to them complain. And so again, it's a reactive system, but within it, your employer wants you to be proactive in how you address that problem. Again, tell me in your comments, I'd love to see what you think about the difference between proactive and reactive. And the next one is, hello, Sharon, I am Caroline and a mother of 2 teenage girls. So that's fun. I'm a surgeon and perform high-risk procedures for patients with life-threatening conditions. My career has allowed me to earn a generous income and provide my daughters with a very comfortable lifestyle. In fact, I wonder if I've done them a disservice, as they have not had to face many adversities. And from a very early age, I've outsourced most of the maintenance of my home inside and out, so they have limited responsibilities. I've tried to make adjustments to get them to help more around the house, but it seems like an uphill battle, as now I am undoing all the training that a lifetime of having help with whatever we needed has created. I'm hoping I haven't missed the boat on teaching them to be contributors and proactive for themselves, and wonder if you have any ideas on where I can start. Well, thank you, Caroline. I bet there's a few people on the call or watching this right now, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching the recording, that may feel understand that question and have the same question. I certainly did. You know, when you have a bit of affluence, it's very important to pay attention to how that impacts your children. And it's never too late for them to become proactive and for them to understand and create some personal responsibility. One of the things that when I talk about allowance, I say you shouldn't pay an allowance for personal responsibility, which is brushing your teeth, making your bed, family responsibility, doing the dishes, all right, helping fold laundry, community responsibility, maybe a neighbor, an elder neighbor needs help with the trash. Those are things that we shouldn't get paid allowance. Now, when you talk about entrepreneurial activities where they see something extra that needs to happen, or they go above and beyond, maybe they're very active in sports, and so you can recognize that they are making that commitment. They're being proactive in how they're choosing their time. And so when you look at the concept of the affluence, what decisions are they making? Think about playing Thrive Time for Teens with them. Open their eyes. Sometimes I recommend parents take their kids on a mission during the summer to Habitat for Humanity, or go with a church to a village in Mexico or in a third world country where they can really roll up their sleeves and help the unfortunate, because that helps them open their eyes to how fortunate they really are. Or even within your own city, go to the soup kitchen and have them help you serve soup, serve dinner to the homeless. By exposing them to, without telling them, okay, that's the wrong thing. By telling them they're too lucky, it's not, that goes in one ear and out the other. But again, showing them the things that you have, things that they can compare their life to the lives of others, they start opening their eyes. You know, I often say that we should be able to send our kids away at 12 and bring them back at 25, because at 12 we start looking dumber and dumber to them. And once when we when they get about 25, all of a sudden we start looking smarter. And so part of that is what you're exposing them to. And, it's never too late to start taking corrective action and allowing them to become entrepreneurial. Ask them about things that they want to do. Get them involved in church, get them involved in school activities, and let them be proactive and have those conversations. What do you think should happen? Start including them in family decisions. And it's something that I wholeheartedly support and definitely recommend that you think about that, Caroline. So we've talked about the second violet, about call center. So when you have a system that is set up to be reactive to customers, that system, your goal is to be proactive in solving the problems of your customers. And then with Caroline, with the children, that's one of the things when I talked about at the top of the hour, for those of you who have joined a little later, is I've always been one to say proactive, proactive. Don't ever be reactive. Be proactive. Be in the driver's seat, which means, I guess the definition is I'm kind of a control freak. And so I've invited those of you. I haven't seen anybody admit to being a control freak yet, but I definitely am. And I've tried to change that in my older age. But as a parent, by being in control and proactive all the time, we prevent our kids from becoming standing in their own power, the ability to make mistakes and recover from them. I would much rather see your children make a mistake at the age of 10 and recover from it than make that mistake at 30. And in fact, I'll tell a story on myself. I remember our youngest son, the one I lost when he was 16, he wanted a car. And we had certain parameters that he needed to perform in order to get a car. And I'll never forget him saying, just as serious as can be, he says, "Mom, if you buy the car and put it in the driveway, then I'll want to earn it." And it's like, oh my God, talk about cart before the horse. It was a real dawning and awakening for me. And it's like, okay, where did I go wrong? Where do we show the fact that delayed gratification is very important, but also being in charge, standing in your own power and making the decisions to the choices that we make. So you've heard me say each of us, it's where we are today because the choices we made before today. And if we want something different in our life, we need to make different choices moving forward. And so as you are with your children, I challenge you this week to watch yourself. Are you letting them be proactive about what they do? And it's not just the choices they make about outside activities. It's also choices on how they spend their time and who they spend that time with. Are they involved in activities that will support their growth? That's being proactive. Are they one to be a leader? And if they're not, start thinking about how can you position them to learn more skills as leadership, because that's, leaders tend to be more proactive, hopefully, and followers are more reactive. And that's where that fine line is helping your children stand in their own power and make decisions and know that they don't need to do what the crowd's doing, that they can make a choice for themselves to be proactive in driving their own life. I often say that your life or your business, either one, is like you're in the vehicle, you're in the driver's seat, and you have a large windshield, you can go anywhere you want to, but the rear view mirror is very small so that you only learn from the past. But it's important for our children to understand that, because we have that fear of criticism, as Karen mentioned earlier, outwitting the devil. We have that fear of criticism that can hold us back and tend to make young people want to do what everybody else is doing. So I challenge you to think about with your children how you can help them identify that strength within themselves, to not follow along, but to become a leader and do what they know is right for them, not just with who they hang out with and how they spend their time, but how they set their own goals into the future. Okay, last question that I have right here. My name is Michael. I've been in network marketing for 5 years and have achieved minor success with 2 different companies and have 2 totally different offerings. I figure that with 2 companies, I have more than one type of opportunity and product to offer in order to grow. Because I have existing teams in both companies, I wouldn't want to just walk away from one of them. But I'm starting to wonder, though, if this is slowing my growth, and if I focus my energy on one company, if it would propel me a bit faster. My question kind of relates to productivity, but I would like to know what you think. Well, thank you very much, Michael. Interesting question. A lot of network marketing companies will only allow you to be in one company. So first of all, I would check to make sure that both your companies are okay with it, so that we're not talking about something that is violating the company rules. And I don't know your personal situation, so I'm hesitant to give you a specific answer, but I would challenge you to say, if this is all that you're doing in your life and you feel that you have the ability, the bandwidth, and the energy to promote two companies, then that's your decision. I would typically and always recommend that people focus on one thing and become successful and continue that and being able to draw it. So I would tell you, if I was in your shoes, I would get confused, because you'd have two downlines. You have two different groups of communities that you're supporting. And so at some point, the more successful you become, those lines are going to start to blur. So it's important to make the choices that are right for you and proactively know, how can you best serve your success in network marketing is a direct parallel to the organization that you build below you. And that's the whole revenue cycle. So if you're trying to do two different revenue systems, then you're not able to be proactively focused on one over the other. And so you're dividing your own personal time. So, to be truly successful in network marketing, I have many friends who are, well into the millions of dollars in network marketing. I will tell you, they work very hard. They love the people that are in their organizations, and they support them by mentoring them, and they continue to focus on the education that they provide and the mentoring. And so if I had to give you specific advice, I'd say focus on one. The other one maybe can be a part side, or maybe that's something that a friend of yours or a partner or a spouse could focus on, while you focus on building the one that has the greatest opportunity for success. Because I don't know anyone in the network marketing industry that isn't proud of what they do and built their organization with 100% commitment to what they do. So think about that, challenge yourself, talk to people within the two organizations and find out, sounds like you've had success in both so far. So see if you can bring in someone to help you keep them both going. But I'd say focus your efforts on building the biggest network you can with the organization that gives you the greatest revenue stream, because that's what, the way that becomes most successful for you is when you're getting tremendous revenue from the passive side of that. So I hope that helps, Michael. And those of you that are on the line, again, we're talking about proactive versus reactive. And I talk about when it comes to money, you're either a master of your money or a slave to it. And this is something that, it sounds so common sense, but many of us live our lives and things happen to us. And so we're thrown into a position of having to react. And so we talk about, a simple rule that can't always apply to every situation. But I challenge you, because when something comes out of left field and hits you in the head, recognize that you're going to need some time to have an emotional response, because that's what happens when we lose control of what's happening to us. The first thing is our fear and other emotions, whether it be fear and anger, fear and guilt, fear and worry, and face that and realize, okay, what I typically tell people is ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? Go there, figure out what you would do, and then realize you're not so bad off, because you're not there yet. And then you can proactively choose what to do in response, not necessarily in reaction. So there's a difference between reaction, which is immediate, right, or response. So this happened, So ask yourself, and use that phrase, okay, so this happened. What am I going to do about it? So instead of immediately reacting, you take the moment to feel it, analyze it, and then respond to it. So add that word to your vocabulary. So say, I'm not going to be reactive, I'm going to be responsible in my response, which means that you're taking control of your life and you're taking control of being proactive of what happens to you. Same thing with your kids. When things happen, you want to step in there and save them. We have a lot of kids today that are in bubbles. Well, instead of stepping in and saving them, I'll say, stop and say, oh my God, this happened. You're going to have a lot of emotion because you're a parent. And recognize, as I said, this happened. What are the choices I have as a parent? What can I do as a parent? Can I take over? Not usually the best case. Do I need to go fight the battle for the child? Sometimes you do. But always make that judgment call by asking yourself, what is going to allow my child to learn how to do this on their own as an adult? How am I teaching them to be responsible, accountable, set goals, and learn to teach them how to be proactive in their own choice that they make in life? And so again, proactive versus reactive. Things happen to us. Instead of reacting, we want to, that happened, think about it, acknowledge the emotion, and then respond in a way that allows you to take more control over your own life. So thank you so much for being with me today. I love you all and hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Love you. Take care.